Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to what is probably going to be the last message from the chaplain before the summer holidays. An apology as well for not having done a video last week. I'm not entirely sure what happened. I think maybe Sunday was unusually busy and therefore one didn't happen. But hopefully you joined in with one of the live streamed acts of worship. So we did some for year 7 on Monday, we did some Wednesday for year 8, year 9 we had one on Thursday. It was year 8 and 9 were together, and then year 10 was on Thursday and year 12 was on Friday. So despite the fact that we're all separate and we are all sort of at home in various places, we can still sort of join in together to spend a moment in sort of in prayer and reflection, and to be sort of thinking about some of those sort of really important things in our lives. So, like as always, I'm going to read out the birthdays of people who have their birthdays this week, from year 7 all the way up to year 13. And this goes from today until next Saturday, which I believe is the 11th, so the day after we break up. And yes, so just as always, you know, birthdays are really, really important sort of days, and hopefully as sort of lockdown sort of rules sort of what's the word, become a little bit less stringent, we can celebrate with our families and our friends in a way that perhaps a lot of you haven't sort of been able to in the last 3 months. So in year 7 we have Isaac Sharma and Joseph De Silva. In year 8 we have Rosalie Holden. In year 9 we have Naomi Empoy, Josh Simpson and Cheyenne Chuan. In year 10, again we seem to have loads in year 10, we have Elise McGee, Raphael Duarte, Isabella Harding, Carter Steele, Nicole Bennett and Isabella Bradshaw Mays. In year 11 we have Isabel Little, Finn Bullivant, Lamea Islam and Julia Junio. In year 12 we have Alina Sibi, and year 13 are 18-year-olds, so a momentous birthday, Daisy Whiteman and Kian Beebe. So happy birthday to all of you guys, and hopefully I won't forget, but I will do my best to try and send you an email on those days. Occasionally I forget and then I do them the day after. But yeah, we wish you all the best, and our prayers and our thoughts are with you. So today I'm going to keep it simple because there's sort of a particular thing I want to sort of speak about, and in your acts of worship this week, however they happen, because we've been trying to do them from the chapel where the Wi-Fi connection is a bit poor, so sometimes in youth speak it's a bit laggy, which isn't ideal. So we're going to play around with some different ideas this week, and maybe try and sort of do a pre-recorded one that we can then send you all a link to on your different days. And so I'll speak about the word of the week during our acts of worship. Today I'm going to read the gospel, and then I'm just going to speak to you about another sort of charity focus that might sort of be another direction we could move in, with the assistance, with the support of the senior prefect team, once the Big Delisle fundraiser has kind of drawn to a close. So the first of all, I'm going to read the gospel from today, and then explain to you the charity focus. So this is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time Jesus exclaimed, "I bless you, Father, Lord of heaven and of earth, for hiding these things from the learned and the clever, and revealing them to little children. Yes, Father, for that is what it pleased you to do. Everything has been entrusted to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, just as no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who labour and are overburdened, and I will give you rest. Shoulder my yoke and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Yes, my yoke is easy and my burden light." This is the gospel of the Lord. Now, Matthew's Gospels, or the Gospel of Matthew, the parts of Matthew's Gospel which are going to be the Gospels that are read during Mass for the remainder of ordinary time, are perhaps a little bit more easy to comprehend than John's Gospel that we had leading up to Pentecost. And so there are two sort of aspects of this particular Gospel that I really like, and are both, I think, really quite sort of relevant. You know, the first bit, it says that God has revealed not to the learned and not to the wise, not to those in power, the truth that God speaks in the gospel message. He gives them to the equivalent of little children, people with perhaps an ability to accept and to comprehend things without overcomplicating them in a way that most adults do, and I include myself in that. And so God gives that good news to people who perhaps will just accept it at face value without interpreting it too much, or without sort of picking it apart too much, or without being too cynical about it. And it's a reminder that actually the simple people, not the simple people, but the people who are perhaps not in the limelight and not famous and not in power, are actually the ones who often on a day-to-day basis do the right thing because they understand the right thing, the message that they are given from God. And the second part of that gospel is especially relevant at the moment, you know, where we've been in lockdown for 3 months, and some of us have really missed having that contact with other people and the normality that school brings, and seeing your wider sort of family bring. And it's been really difficult, and we've felt that burden, we've felt that anxiety, we've felt that perhaps that loneliness often. And the last part of that gospel says, come to me, all you who labour and are overburdened, and I will give you rest. Shoulder my yoke and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Now the yoke, if you can imagine an old fashioned picture of a couple of oxen, or beasts of burden as they are described in the Bible, walking side by side, ploughing the field. The yoke is the piece of wood that fits over their necks, pulling the plough. And the yoke it needs two things to carry it. And so you have this image of, you know, us being one half of that, and then Jesus being the other. And actually often when we kind of feel that we are being overburdened, there is always that other person there in the figure of Jesus to help burden or help carry our burdens. But often we forget. It's a bit like the footprints prayer. You know, when I needed you most, there was only one pair of footprints. Well, actually Jesus says it was at those times I was carrying you. And we very often forget that. We forget to turn to God or to Jesus to just hand over those difficulties. And this is what I would like us to really sort of think about for the next charitable focus. You may or may not have seen in the news, and it's been going on for the last 3-4 years, but has been made even more desperate by the COVID crisis, is the situation in Yemen. Yemen is a very small country on the Gulf of Arabia, on the coast of the Indian Ocean, or the Red Sea. My geography is right. That has been plagued by war. As always, the people stuck in the middle of that, the poor, the children, the elderly, the sick, the disabled, are the ones that are bearing the brunt of an unbelievably desperate situation. And so I'm in the middle of this video. After I've stopped talking about this, I'm going to just add a little video from UNICEF, which is the United Nations children's sort of branch of their sort of their charity, and they are appealing for people to donate. Now we can donate through UNICEF, or we could donate through CAFOD, and again I will send out a link via the school Twitter feed for us to support CAFOD and UNICEF in their sort of work to help the people of Yemen, and specifically the children. So I would like us as a school to do whatever we can to try and support these people who are in desperate need of just basic things: water, food, medicine, education, shelter. As always, all the most basic things that we probably take for granted. You know, whilst everyone is making a big fuss about pubs being open or restaurants being open, and those are all things that are necessary for our own economy, it's very easy to forget that actually there are some people who don't even have water or food to put on their table. So I'd like us to perhaps think about ways in which we can support those charities to help the children of the Yemen. So I'm going to put the video on now, and then I will finish with a short little prayer for those people.
COVID-19 is a crisis in nearly every country, but imagine dealing with the pandemic in a country under conflict, where violence and instability are a daily reality, where food and water systems are barely functional, where peace is a distant dream. That's the world that millions of Yemeni children face each day. After 5 years of conflict, over 12 million children need some kind of humanitarian assistance. 2 million are out of school. Millions more are on the brink of losing their spot in a classroom because teachers have not been paid salaries in years. Nearly 500,000 could die of severe acute malnutrition. Millions face the risk of cholera and diarrhea because their communities do not have water, sanitation, and hygiene, even soap, that they need. And now these children face a new threat: COVID-19. How can we fight this pandemic in a place where barely half of the health facilities are still functional, where people already suffer from low immunity or have never been immunized, where hand washing and physical distancing are nearly impossible, where airports and seaports have been closed? Amidst the conflict, UNICEF is staying and delivering for the children of Yemen. We're supporting health facilities and hospitals. We're working to deliver immunizations. We've reached 16 million people with information on how to stay safe from COVID-19 using television, radio, and social media, and our network of volunteers who are going door to door. We're supplying water and hygiene kits to communities in need. We're screening and treating acute malnutrition, even in hard-to-reach areas. And we're working around the clock to bring in essential supplies, including personal protective equipment, to keep health and nutrition workers safe. But we need more help. On June 2nd, the United Nations and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are hosting a virtual pledging event to sound the alarm on this crisis. We need donors to step up and increase their financial support of our life-saving work. We need humanitarian access to reach the children and families whose lives hang in the balance. And most of all, the children of Yemen need the fighting to stop. Before COVID-19, Yemen was collapsing from conflict. Decades of progress were lost in just a few years. Without urgent assistance now, the pandemic will push Yemen even closer to the brink. As UNICEF stands with the children of Yemen, we call on our global partners to do the same.
Dear Lord, who hears the cries from Yemen of mothers choosing between medicine or food, of parents grieving children lost to starvation, of those who have given up everything in hunger. Hear our cries for hope, for change, for peace. In your mercy, break political deadlocks, soften hardened hearts, change closed minds, open unhearing ears. Let people come before power. Let life be holy again. Let your justice and peace shape the nation of Yemen and the lives of all people. Amen. And those little phrases in the middle of that prayer, break political deadlocks, where all people seem to be sort of bothered about is proving themselves on an international scale. When they have the power to do so much amazing good, all they can think about is themselves. Soften hardened hearts, and hopefully when we see the video that I put on, whatever skepticism we have will be lost, because it needs our hearts to be softened. We change our closed minds, open unhearing ears. So I will send out various links to people, and I'm going to ask the senior prefect team and everyone else in school to come up with different ways in which we can try and support those children and their families at this very, very desperate time. But it goes without saying, like I said, if this is going to be my last message before the summer holidays, that I and all my colleagues, your teachers and support staff and everyone at school wish you all the best. And really do try as much as you can, like it says, when you are feeling overburdened, just once in a while, we don't know why or how it happens or whether it does, but just maybe sometimes just pass that burden and that anxiety onto God. Whatever you conceive of God to be, or whether you believe in God or not, maybe sometimes just go, this is something I can't control and something I can't really do much about, and I'm just going to hand it over. And so look after yourselves. Make sure that you get outside and you do some exercise and you get out in nature, because it is a really good tonic. As I said last week, it is a brilliant tonic for feeling stressed and feeling anxious, and being able to get outside even when it's windy or it's raining or whatever it happens to be, it does you the world of good. Keep in contact with your friends and your teachers, and make sure that whatever you can do, you do to support your brothers and your sisters and your mums and your dads, and to look after yourselves, because it's going to be another long 6 weeks of holiday before we eventually go back to school in whatever shape or form that is. So look after yourselves, God bless, and I look forward to seeing you all at some point. It's been really lovely seeing some of the students in school, whether they be year 10s or year 12s or some of the key worker children. It'd just be nice to see more of you back in September. So until then, look after yourselves, God bless, and take care. Bye bye.